Hello, and welcome to this tutorial on the introduction to Janelle's latest release of Access Unlimited Program version 2.0. AU 2.0 for short has quite a few changes from the version you're used to running. But not to worry, this instructional video will help you navigate these changes and get you up and going in no time at all. During this tutorial, we'll be covering the following topics. Understand basic navigation and program menus. Help identify the difference between new AU 2.0 programs and traditional legacy applications. Introduce how to navigate the Quick Launch menu. Introduce and set up the reporting dashboard. And finally, understand AU 2.0 browser tabs and how to run multiple windows. Ready to begin? Let's go ahead and get started with basic navigation. The first thing that you will notice about the new version of AU after logging in is the absence of the toolbar. Instead, you will immediately see the main application page similar to the one I'm showing now. The main application page is made of the side navigation menu displayed here and the Quick Launch menu displayed along the top. We will discuss the Quick Launch area a bit later in the tutorial. For now, let's focus on the side navigation page displayed on the left side of your screen. The pull-out navigation window is comprised of the similar module pull-down menu in classic AU. You'll notice each of the menu headings are categorized. Sales, ticket processing, operations. Within operations, you'll notice you'll have the concrete, aggregates, as well as block and building materials. These menus deal with applications that are specific to each of the system types, where operations programs that are common to all system types will be nested directly under the Operations tab. The other main menus on the side navigation pane are Inventory, Credit, and the Report menu, which we will discuss later in the tutorial. AU 2.0 is designed to allow you to run both legacy-based programs that you've traditionally used in earlier versions, as well as new AU 2.0 versions. At present, not all legacy programs have two versions. The ones that do will be identified with different labels to distinguish between the legacy version and newer versions. Menu options that are labeled Classic identify legacy windows that you've used in prior versions of AU, where the newer 2.0 versions of these programs will not contain the Classic label and will have slightly different behavior than traditional AU forms that we will cover later in the tutorial. As an example, I'll demonstrate this by running a native program. In this case, I'll select the native 2.0 version of truck maintenance from my navigation menu. Since this is a native 2.0 version, it will launch inside the main application window. Now notice the difference when I select a classic window. This example will look at the load scheduling screen. So I'll go ahead and check that, select the load scheduling screen, and when I do that, the application will actually load outside of the current window into its own separate window outside of the main application view. Another example of that would be if I go to the ticket processing, for example, and go into edit tickets, you'll notice that there's the classic Access Unlimited form that you would normally use for edit tickets. One other thing to point out is that you can temporarily collapse the side navigation menu by selecting the Collapse Menu button at the top of the screen. This allows you to maximize the real estate of the main application area for other programs such as the dashboard or other screens that you use throughout the day. You can then go back and expand the menu when you want to access it, just by clicking on the menu expansion button again. One of the advanced features of AU 2.0 is the Quick Launch menu. This allows you to set up a shortcut to any program that you normally use on a consistent basis. To configure the Quick Launch menu, select the blue settings icon at the far right of your screen. When prompted, select the settings icon and you will be prompted with the program selection pane. To select which program you wish to add to your menu, simply click on the checkbox in the left column. In my session, I want to look at the batch load screen. I can also select classic AU forms. In this case, I'll also choose the classic BLS as well. In this example, I can choose reports as well as order entry. Once completed, I can click the close button and all the programs that I've selected will now appear on the Quick Launch menu. Now, rather than navigating the left menu, I can easily select the form I want to open by clicking on the icon in the Quick Launch. In this example, I'll choose the classic batch load screen. This will open a form in a separate window since it's a legacy Windows application. I can also open the AU2 2.0 version of the batch load screen by selecting the other icon. If I want to switch to view the load scheduling or truck tracking screen, I can select that, and the main application window will now show the tracking screen. Later in the tutorial, I'll explain how to launch multiple tabs so you can view native AU 2.0 screens simultaneously. Now, let's talk about configuring the dashboard. The dashboard is the first panel you will see in the main application window when launching AU. The dashboard is optional, but it can be useful for displaying different operation trends using graphs and pre-configured report options called widgets. To configure the dashboard under your profile, select the down arrow button at the top of the application window page. Here you will see an edit button at the left of your screen. Select the edit button and the dashboard window will now be in configuration mode. You need to add a new row for your first dashboard widget. Click on the blue Add Row button located at the top of the screen. This will automatically add your first report panel. You can continue to add widgets by clicking on the blue plus button on either side of your newly added window. This will add in a new report widget on the same row. Next, if you want to add another row to your dashboard, you can choose the Add Row button again, and it will add another widget below the existing reports. Like before, you can add additional reports by clicking the Add button. In this example now, I have 4 different report widgets that I've defined under my profile. Now that we've defined our dashboard layout, we can configure each of the reports we've created. To configure a specific widget, click on the menu option in the upper right-hand side of the panel. This will prompt you with the pull-down menu. Under the menu, select the Change Type to select the type of report you want to display in the widget. In this example, I will choose truck demand. Once I've selected the type of widget, I can configure the report settings by going back to the menu options and selecting Configure. There I will be prompted by the Report Settings dialog where I can specify different plant settings or date ranges. So in the next report panel, we'll select market segment types. So in this case, I'll go ahead and choose the market segment type. And then I can go back in and set different configuration options. For example, I can select a different date range and/or plants. The third option, I'll go ahead and select raw material demand. So I'll set the type to raw material, update the panel, and of course I can go back and change any type of report settings based on the type of material that I want to track or the plant. Finally, we're going to go ahead and check the sales analysis or 6-month sales analysis report. So I'll select that type in this example on my 4th panel. And then I'm done looking at configuring all my widgets. Once you've completed configuring the reports, you can unselect the Edit button at the top left of your screen. This will save your report configuration, so when you log back in, all your settings will be saved. If you want to change or remove widgets in the future, simply select the Edit button and change the configuration. Here I'm deleting a widget. going back to the Report Settings menu in the Widget panel and selecting Delete. Earlier in the Quick Launch tutorial, I showed you how you can select different native AU 2.0 programs from either the Quick Launch menu or the side navigation panel. And when you do, the main application window will be refreshed, loading the new program on top of the existing screen. This functionality may be desired when you're looking at one thing at a time, but if you want to see multiple screens simultaneously, this is what you need to do. Here I will demonstrate how you can easily initiate separate tabs for native AU 2.0 programs. To run AU programs in a separate tab, you need to select the push pin icon at the top of the form. When you do this, we are identifying that when another form is selected, we want to leave the current tab open. In this example, I will pin down the dashboard and select the batch load screen. Once it refreshes, you'll notice that now I have two open tabs: the batch load screen and the dashboard. Now, let's say you want to have three tabs open at the same time. In this case, I'll select the push pin on the load screen tab, and then select the concrete order entry screen. And when I do this, a third tab will open, allowing me to view information on all three of the screens. So here I have the order entry screen open, batch load screen, and the dashboard. I can also move tabs around along the top navigation bar, or I can also move tabs in my browser to a completely different dedicated screen. So if you want to run the batch load screen on a separate screen or the order entry, you can go ahead and pull those tabs off and run them in a separate screen altogether. You can also run the same program on two separate tabs. So notice in this example, I'll go ahead and select the order entry screen, and then I'll go ahead and pin it down, and then relaunch the order entry screen again by clicking on the order entry button, and it'll launch a completely separate screen so I can enter in two separate orders at the same time. This concludes our introduction to AU 2.0. Hopefully you're a bit more comfortable with setting up your own navigation environment and experiment with running different applications under your own profile. Please stay tuned for more detailed discussions on new programs and specific application functions in future releases of this tutorial. Thank you and good luck.